So I just Googled bookkeeping for coaches and I got overwhelmed. My name is Amber Duggar, and in this video, we're going to be talking about when you want to hire a bookkeeper as a coach. So if you're new here, welcome. I'm so grateful you're here. If you have been coming back, welcome too. You guys are amazing, and the community is really what makes this channel and community so robust, is the interaction, the comments, etc. So I so appreciate each and every one of you. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe. And if you, by the end of the video, if you like this video, go ahead and like it. It really does help get this in front of more people. So I so appreciate that. Okay, so let's get back into the bookkeeping. So when I looked this up, I realized no wonder this is one of the most top questions we get when it comes to figuring out when you need to have a bookkeeper. Now, I will say that the very first thing we need to first go over is why you even need a bookkeeper. And what is a bookkeeper? Well, a bookkeeper is simply going to keep track of all of your transactions, going to keep track of your expenses, your income, and really get it all organized so that when you have taxes due, you can give all of this to your accountant and you can figure out how much you owe. That's ultimately why you want a bookkeeper. It can be very confusing when you hear bookkeeping also in the terms of, thinking, well, shouldn't they be helping me pay myself? Shouldn't they be helping me with making sure I'm making enough money? While many bookkeepers do try to help in that area, that is not the function of a bookkeeper. So that's something also to keep in mind. So when you are looking to have a bookkeeper, it's because you want to really just be able to streamline your tax process, and you want to be able to streamline all of the documenting portion of your business when it comes to finances. Now, if you've been around for a while, you know that we have a framework called Profit for Keeps. That is not bookkeeping. It's actually all about learning to pay yourself, learning to look at, the key metrics you need to understand in your business, and to be able to hire a bookkeeper so that you don't have to deal with the nitty-gritty of the accounting. So let's get back to hiring a bookkeeper. So we've gone over why you want one, what they do. Now, this is what people are not going to want to hear is, honestly, the best time to hire a bookkeeper would be when you first get started. And the reason for that is ultimately to have everything as clean as possible from the beginning is ideal. That said, it may not be the best use of your resources, especially if you don't have any income coming in and you have limited savings to get your business started. So the next best time is really when you're looking to just hand this completely over to someone else. So that's going to look different for different people, but I can tell you that for the first 2 years of my business, I did my own, but I do have a background in it, so that helped quite substantially. If I were to do it over again, I would have started on something called Wave. If you Google Wave accounting, you'll find it. It's a really great system that allows you to hook up your bank feeds, and it's a great system when you're first starting out because it's free. If you have the budget, you can go with Quickbooks. Quickbooks is a really great option. And they do allow you to even work with someone, I think, at the end of the year to make sure that everything is status quo. Don't quote me on that, however. That's just what they say in their fine print. I don't personally use QuickBooks, so it's not something I know for sure, but I do know that QuickBooks can be a great option for long-term growth. It's probably the most stable platform for any US-based business. Now, if you're in Australia or Canada or New Zealand, Xero is a great option. I use Xero as a US-based business, but I would not recommend it for others. And the reason for that is I feel like it's really catered for the Australian market. And while I love Xero, I love some of the capabilities it has, my bookkeeper is not that excited about it. So she definitely prefers QuickBooks. And I have to say, QuickBooks is just a little bit more catered to the US market. So that's something to keep in mind. But the main thing that you want to think about is how much time are you spending at tax time? Are you spending a ton of time trying to figure out how much money you made? Are you spending a lot of time figuring out what your expenses are? That can be an indication that you want to have a bookkeeper. I will say that from a mindset perspective, I always feel like when you create the foundation for what it is that you are creating, you then can make these decisions a lot easier. So, what I mean by that is just think of any larger coaching organization, whether it be multi six or multi seven or even multi eight figures. You better believe it. They have a bookkeeper. They probably even have an accounting team, depending on the size of the company. So, if you're looking to become a coach that has staff, that has a bigger company, you definitely want to think of it as this is laying the foundation for that. If you're looking to remain a one-on-one coach, sole proprietor, you may end up never needing to get a bookkeeper as long as you're happy with the system that you're using. I'm not a big proponent of basically teaching oneself bookkeeping if their wheelhouse is something completely different. The reason for that is most people don't really enjoy it. And on top of that, we have it's quite complex, and even people with accounting degrees get confused. So there's just so much additional complexity when it comes to accounting versus cash flow management, which is what this channel is all about. But I wanted to touch on this because this question comes up so often. So with bookkeeping, you really want to have an expert as soon as possible. That's really the best way to do it. And the reason for that is it's going to be done correctly. You're going to be able to count on your financials for taxes. And if you ever decide you want to get a mortgage or buy a house, having those financial statements make a huge difference. I just went through this last year, and having my financials in place made it so easy, so easy to buy a house. And I was really thinking it was going to be impossible. So it's just sometimes those mindset blocks can also get us. So you want to look at the goals that you have for your business in terms of, are you wanting to grow substantially? Are you wanting to buy a house in the next few years? Are you wanting to do something significant from a financial perspective where having the financial statements would be quite helpful? Then yes, you want to get a bookkeeper sooner rather than later. If you're looking to just maintain one-on-one clients and not really, and you really just love that intimate boutique connection, then it may be less necessary. And then you can go with something a bit more automated. So here are some alternatives. Of course, QuickBooks is probably the most known and the most popular amongst US-based businesses. It definitely is easy to have any bookkeeper that's familiar with QuickBooks, and there's a lot of QuickBooks certified bookkeepers out there that will easily be able to take on your business bookkeeping. Another option is Bench. Now, some people are going to cringe at this suggestion simply because Bench uses their own proprietary software. So that's something to keep in mind. When you have someone doing your bookkeeping, you want to be confident that that platform is not going anywhere. Now, Bench has been around at least 8 years because since I've been in business, they've been an option. But I personally have always shied away from Bench simply because they use their own software. And that makes me nervous because if they decide to just, we don't want to do this anymore, then you're going to have a whole bunch of data that isn't necessarily transferable to any other platform. But again, they may have that, of course, if they're going to close shop, they probably will make their data somewhat available, but it will still become a headache. Another option, like I said, for Canada and Australia would be Xero. It's similar to QuickBooks in that it's a standard operating software, and it allows you to do project-based accounting. It's a little bit more robust when you want to be able to look at different streams of income if you set it up properly. But again, that means you need to find someone who really understands how to set up Xero properly. Because if anything with bookkeeping, the most important thing is proper setup from the beginning. So that's something you want to keep in mind when you're looking for a bookkeeper. There's also a thing called Freshbooks. I don't know much about Freshbooks other than it is a main competitor with QuickBooks and Xero. And it's just another software that your bookkeeper would be able to use. If you're going to do this yourself, I would highly recommend, if you're first just starting out as a coach or you're under $100,000 a year in coaching income, Wave Accounting has really been a great solution for a lot of clients that are in that stage because it's just really simple. There's not a lot of complexity to it. You can't do a lot of fancy things with it, but by the time you're wanting to do that, you most likely have between $300 and $500 a month to budget for coaching. I'm sorry, for bookkeeping. So all of this is truly just to say bookkeeping's important. You want to find a good bookkeeper, but in the interim, if you're just starting out or you don't have a lot of transactions yet, at a minimum, hook up all your bank feeds to Wave Accounting so that you will have access to your expenses all in one place, your income all in one place. It even lets you send invoices. Not that I recommend doing that either. That's a whole nother video, but essentially with invoices, the less invoicing you do as a coach, the better. I rarely send out an invoice that's all automated because it's just so much easier for everyone involved, for your clients, for yourself, for your cash flow, everything. So from that perspective, it's not that big a deal. But if you do have like one-off invoices, it's nice because it's easy to do and it looks quite professional. So in conclusion, you want to get a bookkeeper as soon as you can afford it. You can use my revenue calculator to see if you can afford it by going to amberduggar.com/revenue, and then make sure to add that into your business expenses when you do the calculation, and that can help you as well. And if you have any questions or any tips on bookkeepers, or if you're a bookkeeper yourself and you want to share what you feel in terms of when to get a bookkeeper, that would be amazing. All right, guys, it was so great to see you. It was so great to be here. I'm so grateful you're here. If you haven't yet already, please do join our community. It's a free community. It's called Sweet Life Purposeful Money, and you can go to amberduggar.com/community and it will take you right there. Make sure to answer the questions so that we can help you best. And other than that, have a wonderful day. I love you. Talk soon. Bye.